Welcome to Tales at Scale, a podcast that cracks open the world of analytics projects. I'm your host, Rena from Imply, and I'm here to bring you stories from developers doing cool things with analytics way beyond your basic BI. I'm talking about analytics applications that are taking data and insights to a whole new level. Now, I'm sure if you're listening to this right now, you're familiar with Reddit, a platform with forums and communities for pretty much everything, whatever your interests might be. There's probably a subreddit for you. I go there for the AMAs, Ask Me Anythings, travel tips like how to get a reservation at the Kirby Cafe in Tokyo, true story, cozy home decor, and anime discussions personally. And like most major social sites, there are ads. But what's the platform like? How do ads work on Reddit? What does the scale look like in terms of events and reporting when you're running ads on what's known as the front page of the internet, right? To talk us through how things worked, I'm joined by Lakshmi Ramasubramanian, staff software engineer at Reddit. Lakshmi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rina. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So I like to start off with a little bit about you, the person behind the project. I think engineers and backend developers especially don't always get the spotlight they deserve because they're just out there, making things work. After doing a little bit of research for this episode, you've been building analytics applications with databases for a while now, or just applications in general. Let's talk about how you got to where you are today. What do you find most interesting about this space?
Yeah, I started a long time ago, like any software engineer does, did my engineering degree and started working at many companies before Reddit. I was lucky that I got to work on Scratch development projects from the beginning, and I've worked with Postgres, MySQL, many databases. So it was a natural transition to become a backend or a data engineer. So what I find most interesting about this is it's exciting to see something go live. It's exciting to see that some people are clicking something somewhere remotely, or something is happening, and then we provide the data from somewhere else in the world, or the data is pre-populated. There's many technology goes behind it, but it's exciting to see that I'm able to do something that people can actually access in their fingertips. So that's kind of interesting for me.
No, that's like super cool. And you're at Reddit right now. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you're working on at Reddit?
Yeah, I am with the ad events and platform team at Reddit. We are responsible for everything that happens within ads. In perspective of the data, of course, like any data that comes from Reddit goes out to the user, or any reporting events that are shown to the advertiser, or any impressions or clicks, or anything that comes within Reddit. All of that we take into account. We validate it, we attribute it, and our team does a lot of data analytics and pacing and reporting work as well.
I actually had a chance to catch your 2022 Druid Summit presentation with your colleague, Brianna Greenberg, on low latency real-time ad pacing queries. I wanted to chat a little bit about the backend system you and your team built. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? I know that you switched over to Druid a few years ago, correct?
Yes, that's right. We switched over to Druid for reporting use case, but the talk that I gave was more about pacing. I'll talk about what pacing is as for that. So pacing is when a user comes onto Reddit, and we decided that there are ad slots and we have to show ads to the user. What happens is a request to the ad server is made, and at a moment's notice, we need to make sure that there are ads available and there is budget available from the advertisers. There's a lot of data that is going on back there. So we compute all of them and we make it available for the ad server to make smart decisions. Ad server itself does a lot of smart decisions. I'm not going to talk about that here, but what we do is provide data to make that decisions happen. So when a request is received by the ad server, we want to make the data available to query, and it should be having all the information that they want. How much is the advertiser budget? Are they within the advertiser budget? Did they win? Do they have they served enough impressions before, or have they served enough clicks before? Can we serve more? You don't want to show 10 or 15 times the same ad to the user. So a lot of logic goes into ad server. So for all this logic and auction process to happen, we need the data to be available. So what we do with the system is we provide the data for the system.
And I imagine there is a lot of data that comes through.
Yes. Yes, there is.
Obviously, ads are functioning with real-time data. You're managing spend, and real-time data has been a real hot topic on the show so far. I believe your setup used to have batch processing with validation and aggregation, and then you did a layer of stream processing on top, right?
Yeah, in the manner of speaking, real time data is necessary. Like I said, the system is very, very real time. Somebody coming on to Reddit is very real time. We need to be able to present ads to it right that instant. So we want a real time system for sure. Like we were making ends meet with separate validation pipelines, separate streaming pipeline. So what we did with this particular system is that we transformed it into one system. So we did the validation and aggregation, and we used Druid because Kafka integration. So we just made use of that, and we ingested data into Druid for real-time querying.
How did you go from kind of having like two systems to one system? How did you find the balance? So I know one of the key things you're trying to solve for is like over delivery or under delivery of ad spend. So how did you kind of figure that out?
Yeah. So what happens when we do not provide data, when it is only batch processing, is by the inherent nature of batch processing, the data is available at specific intervals. And that's not good enough because the data is stale, or who knows, advertiser might have changed the budget, or the user might have clicked on it multiple times and we may not have counted it. So that causes us to do over delivery, like presenting no data or stale data makes us do over delivery. So we definitely wanted a real time system. But what happens is that because of the huge volume of data that we discussed, processing this data real time is very challenging. So what we did is we did batch processing for whatever time we did, and to make up the difference, we did maybe 15 minutes or half an hour or 1 hour. Only that small amount of data was real time. Instead, with this new application, what we built with Kafka and Druid, we made everything real time.
Maybe selfishly as part of this podcast, so it's always me learning new things. I wanted to talk. Can you talk to me a little bit about the architecture setup? I know that you had mentioned you used a Lambda architecture. I did kind of look up, and it's kind of like having two engines, I believe, that kind of run together. Can you talk me a little bit more about your setup there?
Yeah, Lambda system is used in mostly big data where you want to, there is an API layer. For us, the API layer is ad serving, especially for the pacing use case. And for this query layer, we wanted to provide this data. And the data can come from batch and real time both. So when it's the hybrid model, it's not just real time and it's not just batch. How you use the batch depends on what the application wants. So when you have these three components, it is called a Lambda architecture. We For pacing architecture, definitely within ads, we use this Lambda architecture. So the data is definitely streamed real time, and we also supplement it with the Lambda architecture for different query needs.
And so I believe your current like setup has, we talked about Druid, I mentioned, because obviously this podcast talks a lot about Druid. But I believe you're also using Apache Flink, if I'm correct.
Yes, Flink is our validation engine. We read the data, so the ad server responds to the user request, right? So there are a bunch of events that we know that we served, but we don't know when. That is one stream, but we don't know when the user clicks on it or when the user watches a video or something like that. So these are user events. So the events that are served by the ad server are called server events, and the events that we get from the user are called or called user events. What we need to do is attribute these user events to the server events. We want to make sure that this is a click on this particular impression. We want to make sure that the impression was the correct impression for this ad we served. So that is the validation pipeline. So we built the validation pipeline on Flink. So we read from these two streams, we do all the validation, we do the attribution, we make sure, there's no point counting a click that happens after a long period of time. So that is another example of validation we do in the Flink engine. So we use Flink to read from these two topics, Kafka topics, that's also streamed to us via Kafka. And we stream them, validate, attribute them, ignore the data that we think that it's irrelevant, and send this data back again to Kafka. And from then on, we let Druid ingest this data and present it for pacing reporting.
When you were looking for basically a new engine, how did you come across Druid? We actually had an imply customer mention recently. I don't know if I can like name them, but they said that they Googled OLAP database and like that's how they came
Okay.
across Druid. Like the
Yeah.
most like a pretty basic term, and good job on SEO there. But I'm always interested in how engineers and developers find and evaluate open source technology.
That's an interesting question. I want to say most of my answer might also be Googling or searching for it. Uh, what helped us is that whenever we start something as a POC, we do multiple tests. Like we ran it with Postgres, we do it with Redis, we do it with, in this particular case, when we were choosing between Flink, we tried Apache Beam. We were running reporting on a different engine before this. So we did try multiple POCs. We did proof of concepts, and also we heard from a lot of other colleagues. I also have used Druid before Reddit as well, but it was in-house managed. They were doing their own Druid management, and I don't think we were at the time capable of doing that, or we didn't have resources to do that. So we decided that Druid is the perfect use case, at least especially for reporting. A lot of data, slicing and dicing by various dimension, it fit the use case perfectly well. We knew that that's what we wanted. We did a POC, and yeah, then we reached out to Imply.
I just like to hear how people find things because, the internet is an infinite space.
One other thing that helps us is attending Kafka Summit and Druid Summit. We do hear about a bunch of things there. So, as engineers, I think we all are looking forward to either one of the summits to happen. So, maybe, especially real time analytics and databases are hot now. So, yes, that also helped.
Analytics database is so hot right now. Yes, we have a ton of events coming up. So hopefully we'll get to see you there and chat for a while in person. That would be great. So you evaluated multiple POCs, you chose Druid. What were some of the challenges that you were looking to solve with your old system?
Yeah, the old system, like I said, was batched. It was delayed, so we were not providing data maybe for an hour. Let's say the batch job runs once an hour, so for 1 hour of data, we didn't know what was happening. So we had to do other streaming mechanism to catch up with the data, which is probably not correct because we were not running the exact same pipeline, and it was maybe very less attributed. Let's say we want to attribute clicks for an hour. So we want to give the users maybe 1 hour for the click to come back to us. But the catching up real time mechanism was not quite doing that. It would probably look for 10 minutes of click data. So we are getting most of the data, but not all of the data that we want. And that was causing us do a little bit of over delivery, a little bit. We will catch up eventually, right? As the day goes, we'll figure out that the Lambda architecture will help us, but it was not accurate. So this new system helped us get the data attributed, and it is accurate, it's deduplicated, and we know that this is what we are going to use for any other processing, reporting, or billing. So the system is all powered by one pipeline, which is one streaming validation engine, not multiple ones. It's accurate, it's validated, and it is also real time. So it's an added advantage.
Are you using Druid for any other use cases moving forward? I know it's kind of involved in a couple different things.
Yes, we started with reporting. That was our first use case. And we realized that this has much more capabilities, and we could perhaps use this for real time querying as well, not just analytics and reporting. That's where we ended up with using this for pacing. So the ad server can make requests on a minutely basis or something super fast, not just reporting. So right now we are using it for reporting, pacing. Forecasting is another use case that we use. We do use Druid HLL sketches for forecasting. That is something we are looking forward to expand as well. But yeah, that's another use case that we are currently using in production. Yeah.
Okay, so what other, I mean, aside Druid aside, what other projects do you have coming up that your team is working on? I think before when we were kind of talking, you mentioned real-time reporting and analytics.
Yes. So far, reporting is only batch process for us. We have not been doing real time reporting, or maybe not completely. But right now, we are onboarding for full real time reporting view for the user on our dashboard. So that is something that we are currently working on. Something else that we're working on is we have not been using Druid for analytics quite yet. Maybe internal analytics, not on a larger scale, not dashboards or not something fancy dashboards. So we are looking forward to use that as well.
Were there any platform improvements? There have been a lot of different Druid releases that have come out. We get a lot of stuff coming out in the future. I actually just talked about some of the MSQ enabled features that are coming this year. I mean, I don't know how much you've heard about that or anything that your team is looking forward to, or that would help improve the performance of your platform.
Yeah, I think we did have a meet or a presentation in how to use MSQA basically. So we do want to use, but we are building some sort of a self-serve kind of a analytics platform or data ingestion platform. So for that, we are definitely looking forward to use MSQ in the future. At the moment, it is all native ingestion, and we have not been using MSQA, but that is definitely in the cards. MSQA especially is will most likely be useful because it's SQL-based ingestion. Should be fairly straightforward to do that. We are, I can't say that we are using Druid the way it is supposed to be. Like there is a lot more optimization and a lot more platform optimizations, especially. We wouldn't have to like query laning or doing a lot of optimization necessary that we have not looked into. So that's definitely in the cards.
Can you tell me a little more about the self-serve analytics? Because I think that's really interesting. Like, how much can you tell me?
Okay, it's all arbitrary right now. Nothing is written down on it. We don't have a vision of exactly how we want this to look like. But what we are looking forward is eventually, if somebody else is building their own data processing pipeline, where we don't have to worry about the data itself, we only have to worry about how we serve the data. They can point to where it is stored, maybe Kafka, maybe S3, any cloud storage. We just use SQL to parse the data and ingest into Druid so that they can query however they want. So all we are providing is Druid as a service.
Interesting.
So for that use case, so we can be hands off of saying that, hey, is your ingestion spec right? Have you written this in the correct order? Are you using X amount of concurrency to ingest data? So we can ignore all of that. And it can be very simple, saying that ingest this from this S3 pipeline or from GCSS anywhere, and just ingest into Druid and give me the results. Maybe we're looking to do something self-serve.
Okay, so full disclosure, Reddit is an Imply customer. Can you talk us through a little bit about the work that your team does with, not my team, but my company, Imply?
Yeah, of course. One thing I have to say is we've learned a lot from talking to various people, many help. Whenever we want some help, we definitely reach out to them. They've helped us in finding the right vCPU for our team, especially for a use case. Like we say that this is what we want to do, or when we were asking how do we optimize for what do you think should go in the cold tier, and what do you think should go in the hot tier. So all of these, the solutions architect hours have been very useful. We are still working with them. We want to work with them more, analyzing query patterns and logging and monitoring, something that we are looking to do in the future as well. But working with Imply, I definitely can say that I've learned a lot.
That's always great to hear because, when you're dealing, even if you're at, a big company like Reddit, when you're dealing with open source technology, you're kind of on your own a lot, and when troubles come up or you're trying to figure something out, it's just easier to have the support than having to do it all by yourself.
Yes, that's true. It is definitely, and also we are not, it doesn't feel like we're reinventing the wheel. We are learning from people who know or who have used this a lot before.
So it's low latency with support. We're getting to you very quickly, helping you solve problems.
Yes.
Lakshmi, thank you so much for joining us today and talking us through what you're working on at Reddit. If you would like to see Lakshmi's presentation from Druid Summit along with all the other fantastic presentations, they're all available now at druidsummit.org. If you want to learn more about Apache Druid or Imply, please visit imply.io. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep it real.